Everybody Wants to Be My Enemy by Neon Zangetsu, Chapter 7. Sister, My Sister. The Moment. An interesting enigma. Allow me to present one of my own. I find power reveals the truth in our hearts. Even the weakest can become something remarkable with a bit of strength. And you'd be amazed what would do to keep it. Silco, Sister, My Sister. The Moment. Vi cornered her a week later. In hindsight, Powder knew she'd had the moment she stumbled into her room after a long day's training and found her sister sitting on her cot alone. Milo and Clagger weren't nowhere to be seen. Why did that relieve her so? Perhaps it was the best. She'd grown distant from her brothers of late. She'd been so focused on her training that she'd barely spared them a second thought. But not Vi, never Vi. She'd never forgotten her one and only sister, a sister who didn't look much pleased right now. Surely it was nothing. It was late, right? Hey sis, she grimaced. Can I have my bed back? I'm kinda sleepy. In a minute. Vi patted the space beside her. We need to talk. Think you can manage that? Nope. Do we? Powder fought down a nervous giggle and didn't budge, not a bit. There's nothing to talk about. Vi gave her that look, the same one that had always quelled her ever since she was little. The infamous "I'm not angry, just disappointed" look that her sibling had mastered so well. Powder tried to stand up to it to her. She really did, but it was just so hard. A little wince escaped her lips. Being the little sister was hard. She kicked out the floor with one foot and looked down, feeling terribly small. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to ignore you. I've been busy, you know. I know. Here at last, Vi's expression softened a fraction of an inch. You've been off training ever since those enforcers came by. Irk. And here she thought herself subtle. Potter scratched at her cheek and looked away. Sorry about that. Don't be. Vi made way for her when she sat beside her. I talked to the old man while you were out. Naruto? Powder perked up again despite herself. Does he need me? Where is he? I can. Whoa, hey. Her sibling held up a hand. The old fart didn't ask after you. Relax. Indignation flared in her heart. Old fart. He's not old. She puffed out her cheeks in anger. He's amazing, and you don't know anything about him. Vi weathered her remark with a patience only an older sibling could possess. And you do? Powder formed her upper lips and stood her ground. More than you. In that case, and now they came to the meat of the matter. Would you be willing to teach me what he taught you? I could help you. You could get stronger together. Why ask me? A blink. You're my sister. As if that explained everything. I know you already asked him. Is that why you're asking me? Her face closed down in an instant. A pit of dread opened in Powder's stomach and swallowed everything she'd ever known. The bedroom felt small all of a sudden and cramped. The walls closed in. What had brought this on? Then came the panic, dark and cloying, awful and choking. No, 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 no. This was not happening. This could not be happening. Naruto had promised. He told the truth, kept his word. So why was Vi asking her? Why now? Vi, no, she sputtered out. I can't. Can't? Her sister rose, not towering over her, but close in enough. Or won't. It's not that simple. The words burst out of her in a ready whine. This isn't something I can give to you. Can't you? She didn't back down, not for a moment. You're in over your head here, Powder. I'm trying to help you here. Pull you back from the edge. She didn't need to be pulled from the edge. There was no edge. None at all. If there was one, she was driving her to it. Something snapped in her. Why do you always do this? Can't I just have this one thing? Here at last, her sister flinched. Tough cookies, too little, too late. Powder. No, you have everything. You're strong and fast and smart. And before this, I was nothing, less than nothing. And now all of a sudden, you want the same thing. Why? The dam broke, and her voice went with it. So you can be better at this too. That's not it at all. Vi laid a hand on her shoulder. Her pity burned in the worst way. He's using you, and I just want to protect you. Liar! Powder shoved her away and sprang to her feet, desperate for distance. Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! I do. Too much. She couldn't take it anymore. She didn't understand. Why didn't any of them understand? Get out. Violet balked. Excuse me. I said get out. She shoved with all her might. Out. Vi rocketed back with a startled yelp. An awful crack filled her ears. You sure this will work? Vander looked up, squinting in the low light. Here's hoping. Naruto looked up from the contraption he'd been building, its form shadowed in the gloom. Not really. A glowing golden hand slapped down the hatch with an audible clank. This'll give Piltover a scare, if nothing else. Something to chew on while we get ready. In a flash, he slipped across the scaffolding, down a ladder, and landed beside him. There could be no denying the merry light in his eyes, not unhinged but dangerous all the same. The blonde had been manic after his meeting with Silco, mad even, but to make this, Van grimaced. Shock, right? Don't be like that. A hand clamped his shoulder to reassure him. This'll be the prank to end all pranks, and hey, if it works, we'll have peace with Piltover, all without a drop of blood. It's what you want, right? It's what you wanted. A noble idea, but noble ideas often failed. Assuming Silco doesn't interfere, he'd best not if he knows what's good for him. Just thinking of him made Vander shudder. To think that old devil was still up to his old tricks, it wasn't a surprise, merely another string of disappointments in a long line of such. And he was to blame for it. Should have killed him that day. He could have, if he hadn't lost his nerve. Maybe if he'd done the deed, they wouldn't be in the situation they were in now. But the past was the past, as they say, until quite suddenly it's the present, and then the future. Even after this time, his old friend was determined to fulfill his dream, come fire and brimstone if need be. Look, he began slowly, choosing his words with care. I appreciate what you're doing, but this. A harsh bang had both men looking up. What was that? Vi, her sister didn't stir, didn't move, didn't rise, did so much as twitch where she lay, sprawled against the wall. She was too quiet, too still. Panic pushed in Powder's heart. Her legs were heavy as she crept out into the hall after her, slowly at first, faltering steps, then emboldened by panic. Frantic, fumbled hands patted her down, cradling her arms, and then, when no response came, her head, You're fine. You got to be fine. Come on, wake up. Her palms came away red. Her world stopped. Blood, she hadn't seen it at first, so closely did it blend with her sister's pink hair, but she did now. Panic became fear as she shrieked. Fear warped into dismay, terror. Vi, she was breathing, wasn't she? Had to be, must be, if she wasn't. What's going on here? Powder pivoted too late. A hand came down on her shoulder, rooting her where she knelt. In her fear, she hadn't sensed Naruto's approach. He was upon her now like a storm. Blue eyes wide, he took everything in at a glance, saw Vi's sprawled form, the dent in the wall, the blood on the floor. Powder, what did you do? Horror bleated in the little girl's mind as she recalled his warning. She'd hurt someone, not just someone, but Vi, her own sister. He would take it away, her chakra, all of it. He'd take it all away. She'd broken the rule, this one rule, done the one thing he told her not to do. He'd punish her for it. Wouldn't he? Clicking his tongue softly, Naruto knelt beside her, and she looked on. His palm shimmered a soft shade of gold, gold that he laid upon Vi. A faint groan fled from the girl's lips. It only made Powder feel all the worse. For a moment there, she thought she had killed. No, she couldn't form the words, not even in her mind. It was an accident, she hiccuped. I didn't mean to. I'm sure. His eyes didn't leave Vi, not for an instant. A bead of sweat ran down his skull. Cracked her skull pretty bad, though. Not sure if I can fix this in one sitting. She wasn't sure how long she knelt there. Minutes, hours. It couldn't have been. It could have been either. Eventually, he pulled away. Dread reared its ugly head. Now, he'd do it now, any second now, and he'd rip her chakra away, punish her for her foolishness, for her slip. She'd go back to being nothing, no one, just a useless girl with her useless bombs. Her voice warbled under his gaze. I'm sorry. It's all right. Warm arms engulfed her, holding her close. She's just hit her head. Potter glared up at him. No, she didn't. I heard Vi. His arms tightened around her just so. She hit her head. Realization dawned, and it was both ugly and beautiful all at once. He'd kept this a secret from Vander for her. Powder needed tentatively, but her fears weren't so easily quashed. They writhed and wrinkled in her heart. Even now, a great serpent devouring her every thought, a frenzied flame scourging all before it. Why did he treat her like this? Why did he baby her, favor her? She wanted to believe that she knew the reason, but to even think of it, especially now, threatened to reduce her to a gibbering wreck. Am I? She swallowed once to master herself and failed. Am I really that important to you? Ugh, of course you are. He gave her a quizzical look. You're my apprentice. Ha, right. Just his apprentice, nothing more, nothing less, of course. Her eyes watered, tears stinging her vision. A stuffy old man. He favored her with a wry smile. Uppity brat. Powder latched on. Only then did she cry. She really did love him. It terrified her. Previews. It's not fair. Milo and Clegg are missing. You have a choice to make, girl. I can't make it for you. Only you can. What is it you want? Power, safety, or family? Well, what will it be? I hate you. No, you hate being powerless. There's a difference. You think another blow hurtled them away. You could hurt my apprentice. And they looked up, just in time to see a building crash down on their head. Why don't you die? Someone stalked through the smoke. Honestly, has this ever worked? He sighed softly, wounds healing, the damage undone before their very eyes. Your kind never learn, but that's all right. Thrunk. Class is now in session, and I'm the teacher. His victim folded over as the fist slammed through their torso. They hurtled up into the air, only to cry out as a hand caught their ankle, yanked them down, and whipped them into the ground. The street creaked and began to crumble, leaving a decidedly human-shaped impression behind. Open your textbook to chapter 9. Naruto's boots stomped down on the text, grinding them deeper into the dirt as he leered down at them. Also known as the pages of pain. End of chapter 7. Everybody Wants to Be My Enemy by Neon Sangetsu, Chapter 8, Ashes of Hope. Ashes, ashes, we all fall down. Ashes of Hope. After that incident, Pud didn't stray far from his side. Naruto wasn't much sure how to feel about that. On the one hand, he found her far more receptive to his teachings now, more willing to listen than ever. Vi's accident had opened her eyes. Now that her sister had come to harms, Powder realized just how powerful she was, and with it, the meaning of restraint. On the other, he worried for her mental state. Powder seemed strong on the outside, but on the inside, she'd become brittle, fragile. Was that the word? He didn't much mind the tension, but if things continued at a pace like this, something was going to break. He'd made an excuse just to get some air, sending her off to get a few scraps for his new project. She was all too happy to do so. It gave him time to think, to ponder his next move, even if he didn't know what said move was. And there you are. Naruto looked up from his workbench, hands still fiddling with his hands off with his scrap. How on earth did Powder make gizmos and gadgets out of these? No, never mind. Focus. Vendor had asked him something. I'm sorry, what? Vi's old man looked at him as askance. You seen Clagger and Milo about? The blonde quirked an eyebrow. No. Why? Haven't seen 'em. Oh, sorry. Truth be told, he had not given much thought to the boys as of late. Surely they were Powder's brothers as such. He tried to be nice to them in the beginning. He'd failed. They'd gone out of their way to avoid him. Now, he hadn't seen them since Vi had her fall. He hadn't missed their black looks. Maybe they knew the truth. Maybe they didn't. Regardless, there was bad blood between them now. Blood he couldn't just mop up. Fair enough. Let me know if they poke their heads out, yeah? Vander clasped his shoulder. Need a word with them? Right, right, he muttered half-heartedly. Will do. He could tell Vander wanted to say more. He had the air about him today. Old dog was probably worried about something. Thankfully, he took the hint. His piece said. The aging brawler sauntered away, grasping the door to his workshop, and closed it behind, leaving Naruto to his work. You're treading a slippery slope there, kid. How much are you willing to let slide? His lips pursed. It was an accident. Was it? Kurama? Fine, fine. At least answer me this. What will you do if she becomes too powerful? Naruto quirked a blond brow inward. Stronger than us? How exactly? Fair, the old fox allowed. Perhaps I'm being paranoid. You are, but it's fine, he muttered. I forgive you. So benevolent. Silence stretched between them, broken only by the scraping sounds of his tools. At length, Naruto felt the need to speak again. I won't let her become another Sasuke, I swear. The stub of his right arm twitched in solemn reminder. Just a bit of phantom pain. He conjured a golden chakra in its place, curled it into a fist, and went back to work. If he could just make one of those smoke bombs work, then he'd finally be able to take the next step in his plan. He needed a lot of smoke, with no fire, a distraction with no destruction. Do you regret it? A little, he admitted, fiddling with the screw. Still don't think I killed him. You best pray you did. I don't relish the idea of facing an Uchiha. He's gone, Naruto. Kurama's voice was almost soft this time. It wasn't your fault. You did what you had to do. He grunted half-heartedly. Whatever you say. He was still working when Powder returned. Vi wouldn't look at her. Neither would Milo or Clarker even. That hurt more than Powder cared to admit. It stung like nothing else, wounded her in the worst of ways. She wasn't even sure if I properly remembered what happened, but enough of the memory lingered to make her miserable all the same. Their bond was fractured, if not broken outright. For the life of her, she didn't know how to repair it. She had to try, and she just didn't know how right now. And yet, despite her sister's actions, or perhaps in spite of it, Naruto had covered for her. She'd broken his one rule. He'd been well within his rights to take her chakra away, to leave her there powerless, the powerless wretch she'd been before. But he hadn't now, had he? Instead, he'd helped her cover it up. She felt just awful about Vi. She really did. She'd learned her lesson. With great power came great responsibility. She had to be careful. No, she must be careful not to break this world or those who lived in it. It was with such thoughts in mind that she came for today's lesson, and tiny knuckles rapped against the door. Come in. She stumbled in, prize in hand. Here, I got a lot of scrap. You gonna tell me what it's for? You'll see. He helped her carry her bag to the table, then beckoned to the seat beside him. Here, have a look at this. Only then did she notice the scroll laid out nearby. Naruto looked to it, then to her with a pleased smile. Today we'll be practicing summoning. Her lips pursed in a thin line. Not sage training. It's not that simple, he chided. I've taught you a bit, but the toads are better at this sort of thing than me. Ah, there's nothing wrong with being eager, Powder. He patted her head. But you gotta be patient. We live in a world of cardboard, you and I. She gazed up at him as he tousled her hair. We have to be careful not to lose control, or someone might get hurt, or worse, die. The word stung. She hung her head with a little whine. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry, she chided. Be better. The person you know you can be. Now, come on, up you go. She nodded and clambered into the seat beside him. That settled it. She'd made up her mind. She was going to marry him someday. Not now, of course. When she was older, maybe. Huh. Just the thought of it brought a shy little smile to her face. She was his one and only pupil after all. She learned all she could from him, carry his teachings into the future, and then well, time would tell. Let that old biddy Savika have him for now. She could try to woo him all she liked. She wouldn't be top dog forever, nor would she be around forever. She'd show Savika. She'd show her. She'd show them all. Naruto would never see her coming. Are the men ready? His lackeys grunted. Just about, boss. Sickle stifled a sigh into his glass. Give him a nudge. But, boss, I thought we was gonna wait until, well, your thoughts are irrelevant. He pined him with an ugly look. Get out! The man saluted stiffly and stalked out. No spine in this one either. So hard to find good help these days. Let alone with his own thoughts. He turned in his chair to admire the underwater world beyond the glass and the beast beneath. Monstrosities, every last one of them. Even a single creature could drag gallons down to the depths. Beasts, the lot of them. They didn't care for subtlety, only power. They took what they wanted when they wanted. He almost envied them in their simplicity. Pivoting, he turned to regard his erstwhile ally lurking in the shadows. Beautiful, aren't they? They're monsters. Hmm, he hummed and poured himself a glass of wine, then took a moment to watch the dark red liquid swirling within, red as blood. There's a monster inside all of us. You of all people know this. Silence reigned supreme. He began to wonder if his guest had departed. And then, Naruto shot a clone aside. Does it really have to be this way? You know the answer as well as I. With a flick of the wrist, Sego knocked the glass back and drank deeply. He savored the burn in his throat. It centered him. He'd agreed to stay out of the boy's way, and he had kept that promise. Their pact held. For now, they'd done well to avoid one another thus far, not stepping on each other's toes. Whatever plans that blonde braggart held were his own, just as Silco's schemes belonged to him and him alone. They would leave one another be for the time being, until such was no longer possible. He had made no such oath to Piltover. It was nothing personal, really, just good business. No, wait, he told a lie. It was very personal. He took no small pleasure in what he was about to do, in the chaos he was about to wreak. Enough of Piltover and its posh and its posh bigotry. They had sow the wind, and now they would reap the whirlwind. Contrary to what some might think, he didn't need to win a war against Piltover, he just needed to scare them. Shimmer would do all that and more. Leveling himself upright, he snatched the knife off his desk and stalked out the door. May the best man win. Previews. Did you ever care? You're up to something. Is that a giant horse? It is. She scowled at the ghastly metal contraption. You can't be serious. They'll never fall for this. Oh, I know. It's just a distraction. Did you dare ask? For what? My revolution. Savika laid a hand on his shoulder. He stilled. The air felt charged between them. This close, he could taste her scent, the faint smell of honey in a hardened leather. Blood splattered the floor. It's not fair. You have a choice to make, girl. I can't make it for you. Only you can. What is it you want? Power, safety, or family? Well, what will it be? I hate you. No, you hate being powerless. There's a difference. You think another blow hurtled them away? You can hurt my apprentice. They looked up just in time to see a building crashing down on their head. Why won't you die? Someone stalked through the smoke. Honestly, has this ever worked? He sighed softly, wounds healing, the damage undone before their very eyes. Your kind never learn, but that's all right. Thrunk. Class is now in session, and I'm the teacher. His victim folded over as a fist slammed through the torso. They hurled up into the air, only to cry out as the hand caught their ankle, yanked them down, and whipped them into the ground. The street creaked and began to crumble, leaving a decidedly human-shaped impression behind. Open your textbooks to chapter 9. Naruto's boots stomped down onto their chest, grinding them deeper into the dirt as he leered down at them, also known as the pages of pain. It has to end this way. Now remember, kids, murder is never the answer. Remember, murder is the question, and the answer is yes. Are you feeling angry, humiliated? Is that it? He caught their fist, snatched them up by the ground, and slammed them down. Idiot! You don't know what humiliation is. Bone twisted, then broke as he stomped down in a rage. I'm trying to help this place, but you're all making this so damn difficult. Please, I need you. You're not allowed to die. Powder clutched at his hand. Promise me you won't die. Not ever. Dander roared. One punch. That was all it took. His attacker folded like a piece of sheet metal. His right gauntlet swept back, then forward, obliterating their skull. Sickle smiled as Marcus seethed. I want every gun we have focused on that man. I don't care who sees. Drop the damn building on him. If that's what it takes, kill him. Kill him now. Kill them. Why won't you understand? Only monsters deal in absolutes. I'll do what I must. A tired sigh pierced the foggy gloom. You will try, my old friend. You call this a wound? He walked through the doorway. This ain't a wound, barely even a scratch. His victim pitched backwards, struggling to hold their bleeding face together. Let me show you what a real injury looks like, feels like, sounds like. Come here. I'll carve it into your corpse. Get up. Rise, damn you. If you can't get up right now, everyone is going to die. Nothing will change. Get up. His arms braced against the ground, pushed, and the rubble gave way. He was unarmed, his hands empty, his back riddled with wounds he'd taken protecting them, one arm hanging loosely at his side, so much blood, yet still he stalked forward. Oh gods, she could see right through him. How was he still moving? Bravado or sheer willpower had to be. He'd collapsed any second now, but he didn't. He threw his head back and snarled. The sound was stark and painful, filled with so much hurt and regret and death, so much death, like a fell hound howling at the moon. I can do this all day. End of chapter 8.